So I had you read an article. I put it on an earlier section of the reading list by Charles Conant, who wrote a book in 1904 called Wall Street and the Country. And if you should have read that by now, but he starts out by saying it's just amazing how public opinion thinks that speculation is evil. And they don't understand that speculation is just business. I mean, business decisions involve guesses about the future. And so when you have well-developed markets, these guesses become market prices. And so the prices go into the calculations that everyone makes, and the calculations are just done better. Somehow there's just a failure for most people to understand it. I'm hoping in this lecture to try to give some more understanding of these markets. I think they're fascinating. Most people apparently don't, because you don't hear them brought up very much. I wanted to just say a little bit more about hostility toward derivative markets and futures markets and speculation in general. In 1991, that was 20 years ago, I wrote a joint paper with I don't remember whether I mentioned this, probably not, with a young man from Russia that I met when I was visiting the Soviet Union, just before the end of the Soviet Union. And we were talking about how antagonistic Russians are toward capitalism. And he said, this is a big problem. Russia just can't embrace capitalism because people hate it. They hate the profit makers and the financiers. And I said to him, well, but you know, it's the same in the US. How do you know it's any worse in Russia? And so we decided to do a questionnaire survey. And I was going to read one of the questions, comparing people in Moscow and people in New York to see which one understands capitalism better. So one of the questions that we had was the following. We wrote these questions and translated them into Russian, and we tried to make them exactly the same question between Russian and English. All right? So here's the question we asked in both cities. Grain traders in capitalist countries sometimes hold grain without selling it, putting it in temporary storage in anticipation of higher prices later. Do you think this speculation will cause more frequent shortages of flour, bread, and other grain products? Or will it cause such shortages to become rarer? What do you think people said? Does the process of speculating in grain cause problems or solve problems? Well, we found that in the USA, 66% said it will make shortages more common. But in the Soviet Union, in Moscow, only 45% thought it would make shortages more common. Both of them were wrong. A lot of them were wrong, but the Russians were closer to the truth than the Americans. Here, living in the financial capital of the USA, most people think that speculating in grain creates problems. But wait a minute, what is speculation in grain? That means holding it off for expecting higher prices later, right? Isn't that what you have to do if you are managing a grain market? Now think of it this way, and I'm coming now to agricultural futures. In the simplest world, there's one harvest of wheat every year, okay? And that harvest comes in a certain time of the year every year, once a year, and it has to be held in storage over the year, right? Because people don't eat it all at once. You eat it over the whole year. So somebody is storing grain. This is a fundamental problem, okay? That's a business. So you have to know that somewhere there's some warehouse holding the grain that you will be consuming in 6 months' time. And that warehouse is run by some professionals who do that. And if they think prices are higher later, they'll keep it longer in the warehouse. And what does that do? That evens out the price. It doesn't make it worse. If they think there's going to be a shortage of grain, they hold it back now and the price of grain goes up. And so everyone starts consuming a little less because of the higher price, and it smooths things out and it works better. I mean, this is elementary economics, but it's not understood, I think, by most people.